Next up, we've got a quick introduction to a baseline grid, both the baseline grid and the column structure that we've used throughout the species booklet. Let me show you how that works. Hi, so introduction into introducing a baseline grid into our design. We've already started with the simple 5-grid structure, 5 vertical columns as part of the design process, and now we're kind of pretty finalised on how we want things to look. We're going to start introducing the baseline grid. The best thing is to find the minimum distance between the grids that you need, and knowing that this is the smallest type size, set at 7.5 on 8, we can set the baseline grid to be at 8-point intervals. First things first, just using this one spread, duplicate the spread, and we can always work on one of them with the baseline grid on, and then look at the other to see how it's working alongside it. So I know my top border here, this border is 10 millimeters. So heading into preferences, grids, here we've got the baseline grid. So we want to start at 10 millimeters. So we set that at 10 millimeters. And increment every, I know it needs to be 8 points, so rather than working out in millimeters, just put in 8 pt. Because this is a full image and spread, we want to have the grids in front, so uncheck grids in back box. Okay, so the baseline grid's there, we just need to make it visible. Grids, show baseline grid. So what we've got here is a grid coming down from the 10 millimeter top margin and continued all the way down. The reason we've done this is so that the type, we also know it will sit on a grid, but the next thing is setting everything to sit on the grid. Selecting all our separate type boxes into paragraph and aligning them to the baseline grid, which is this little function here. Obviously some things are dropping off, so we just need to go back in and work all those out. So making the text boxes larger, we can then start sitting things on the grid, and also at the same point aligning the type with the vertical column. All things that can be done at this stage when we just start working it up and making things perfect. So here we are, now working through all of these, know they're sitting on the correct baseline grid and the 8-point baseline grid, and then looking at the diagram here, we can also start aligning that. And how this helps is that throughout the process you know that each page everything's aligned perfectly, and it will all be relative to each other at the end of working it all up. Here, when aligning to the vertical column, it's always good to get a character with a strong vertical starting point like a K or an H, and then we know it's aligned perfectly, and the overhang for the S's and the W's and so forth will be correct visually. There we are. That's it, the initial sections of a baseline grid. The next part of the process will be going in, tweaking the where the type is actually sitting and making sure it's all right. But then after you've done this, what you can always do is go back to your pages, click on where you were on a page that hasn't got the vertical grid, and just check that it's all in the right place.